let's do it. Okay. Oops. Hey, how you doing? Alright, we're doing the French defense. Oops, not the queen. Here comes Harry. Harry, Harry. There should be a game that goes to this. No game. Alright, let's do another one. Oops, instead of this here. Bishop d3. This is a sideline. Oops, not b5. That was a mouse slip. Knight takes. Knight takes. c4. Bishop b7. Rook d1. Queen e8. Bishop d2. And then rook d8. Take scope there. Continuation was bishop c3, knight d7, h4, c5. When bishop c2 actually looks promising, he says, for white. Okay, let's do our last one, and then we'll get into our game with Marshall. There we go. b3, castles, bishop b2, bishop takes, queen takes, and then c6, c4, and then rook e8. A d8, queen c7, and rook f e1. Slightly better for white, yet black's position is solid. So this is a solid position for black. We'll go into the Steinitz line tomorrow, and we'll try to hammer through some of the Winier. We'll probably, when we hit Winier lines, we'll probably, rather than do Marshall, we'll go through the entire Winier lines and just hammer through that, probably not tomorrow, but the next day. We'll get the Steinitz done. We'll try to get all of the French defense done in about 3 or 4 days. See how we can do with it. We might even pick up instead of doing an extra game in the end game, we may pick up the Steinitz variation here. So let's do a Marshall game while we're hot on it. Let's get our Marshall game in. Okay. One sec, let me get a drink and then we'll get started. The game is predominantly a positional, but there are some net tactic turns towards the end. So this actually has become very positional. This is Ostead 1906, Marshall's white, and Spielman is black. So d4, d5, c4, e6. The Queen's Gambit declined. Queen c3, c5, bishop takes, no, pawn takes, wrong bishop, wrong takes. Pawn takes d5. Wait a second. Uh-oh, wrong pawn again. This pawn takes there, and then here. Knight f3. Knight c6. And then bishop to g5. For sometimes this was my favorite line of play against the Tarrasch defense. But later I switched to a more effective positional, the Skanturol Rubinstein move. Instead of this move, he played G3 with the idea, and that was in a game, it's about 2 years later he switched. He would play G3, then bishop to G2, and then at the right moment land bishop G5. But not until he was ready. But this was a younger Marshall, 2 years younger. So bishop to e7, bishop takes. So he actually gets the bishop pair off the board. Knight G takes e7, pawn takes, which actually wins a pawn there. Queen rook, queen to a5, which actually hits the pawn. It hits the pawn and pins the knight, so that potentially with proper play this idea could actually be in play. E4 would, or d4 would be playable. So he has to play e3 to stop d4. Like if he tried something like potentially queen protecting, this would be a horrible move, because kaboom, d4, and it's all over but the crying. So e3 stops d4 for the time being. So black castled, and then bishop to d3. This is to take scope, get prepared for knight g5, and then a queen push, potentially maybe even harry the h-pawn. We have queen takes c5. Black is on the way to acquiring a very fair development, but his position suffers from inabilities of weaknesses. The isolated queen pawn is one. Not only will white be able to extend pressure on the weak d5 pawn, but we'll have strong pressure on the queen here because of potential knight maneuvers, and maybe even the knight on e7 might come under potential fire. So with that's a pretty interesting setup, to say the least. So castles was played, and then bishop to e6 for black. Pawn a3. This is to stop the queen coming back here, and also at the right moment and also stops the knight from coming in and trading off. See, the knight wants to come in, but now the knight can't come in anymore. So then the king rook or rook f d1, rook f d8, and then rook c1. This has put some pressure on the queen, saying, "Are you ready for the Royal Rumble?" And she's like, "I think I'm going to not do that." The queen's like, I think we'll dance later. So she's like, I promise you a dance later. Or as I like to say, can we have a rain check on that one? Knight to b5. Queen d7. Everybody wants to dance with the queen recently. The knight wants to come in and wanted to dance, and it's like, and then the rook wanted to, and it's like, she's like, why can't you just leave me alone? Okay, enough fun. Having too much fun there. Let's see, queen to knight, queen. Huh. Ah, it's right here. Queen bd4. White has been able to outpost his queen side knight to d4 with gain of time. Whatever piece white posts on that square will be strongly centralized and can never be driven away but by a piece. So queen rook are ac1, and then now we can actually play b1, bishop b1, intending to force a weakening pawn move with queen d6. Black decides to simply allow this and leaves the queen bishop in white's hand. Seems kind of a dubious policy. That's what he says. Knight takes knight. Queen takes d4. Rook takes rook. Rook takes rook. And then knight to c6. Attacks the queen. Queen to h4, with the idea of basically going for a pawn. So he plays h6, and then pawn to h3 to provide a flight square for the king. Preparing for resistance. Potentially bishop f5 could be played with the ability of a pawn push, and at the right moment, kaboom, right down the center could actually come to pass. So rook to e1, rook e1, or rook e8, I mean. Queen to, yeah. Yep. You got it. You got it about that. You must have been listening to some Simon Williams tapes. He talked about that on one of his Grandmaster lessons. Simon Williams had a Grandmaster lesson setup type of thing there. Queen to d8. So good job on doing that. Bishop d3. Queen to a5. And then king to h2. He goes a6. White is slightly improving his position, move by move. Black to admit that he has nothing better than waiting moves. Better than waiting moves. White now can strengthen his grip over c4. Further constricting Black's freedom of activity. So rook to c3 exclam was one way that he can constrict the king, or the position, I mean. Queen to b6. He has no way of preventing White's next move. b5 or b4. Rook to d8, and then rook c5. And there's no way really to kick this out but by a knight, and that would take, let me see, 2 moves. Here and then there. A strong blockading move which has additional ideas of putting more pressure on the pawn. King to f8. h4. Rook to d7, and then bishop to e2. What he's trying to do is implant a knight here potentially, and then play bishop here to take scope on this pawn. Rook d8. Bishop C is actually a bad move because takes, and then knight to d4. After, if knight takes, pawn takes, then you have bishop f here, and then the king can just come in and get involved right there with this pawn attack, this rook attack, and here. So there's a lot of things there. king to e2, which is kind of a silly move to do. Black wants to have his king in the center in the event an ending is reached, but at this stage, this maneuver is too risky. And then f6, this is actually a mistake because it gives up the protection of this bishop here. And more actually preferred was to just kind of admit you made a mistake and play king f8. Just go to king f8. Don't risk anything. Don't be silly. Queen d oops, sorry. Queen d3. Queen d6. Queen to h7, and then rook comes over to g8. Bishop to g4. This is the winning move, exclaim, because this is kind of like a puzzle rush move. How does he defend both? Because if he I guess could try bishop f7, queen to c2, exclaim, because we've already provoked the not good placement of the king. I mean the bishop. Rook to d8. This is to preempt this strike here, but he really can't preempt it because of the bishop covers the d7. So king b8. Rook takes pawn, so a pawn actually falls at this point. King to g8. Queen to c5. Pawn d4. Exchanges queens would eventually be resignable. So queen to a7, which now hammers the bishop really hard. Queen to d5, and then the winning move. Check some out. So let me go back really quick. I just want to make sure I have this right. Not sure where I went awry here. Maybe, let me see here. Hey. How you doing? All right. Okay. Okay, we'll just do that. Queen takes pawn. Rook E there. Somehow he played here. I don't know how that happened, but you just gonna have to bear with me on this. Somehow there was a mix-up here or something. I'm still confused where I went awry. One sec, just give me one more chance through here. I'll go really quick. Okay, there. Because somehow it says there's a queen move here. So it says the bishop on you. Okay, bye-bye. And then it says bishop pawn takes bishop pawn. So is it like this? But that can't be right because it says that this and then king pawn takes, then knight b3, so that's still good. Queen b, bishop takes, knight takes, pawn takes, a3. Well, maybe I read which side it was wrong. That could be the problem. Hold on. I think that might be I have the wrong side. We'll get it though. We will get it. Let's see here. So we're at oh, there we go. This is the reason here. I had the wrong one on move 40. There we go. I told you we'd figure it out. Where there's a will, there's a way. And then here we go. Yay, hooray. Now this is what he was talking about. Hip hip hooray. We got it right. Now we take and rook to e7 at this point. King there. Yes, we're doing it now. That's an exclam. This is an exclam. Then rook to e2, and it's now resignable. He can't guard against the threat of queen to e7 here. Okay, so let's get on to our puzzles. Gotta mark the new there we go. Let's do puzzles time. Try to be as efficient with putting the puzzles out as I can. I'm gonna work really efficient. Come on. I need my computer to work with me though. Okay. Actually, let's do this thing. Okay, let's see. Perfect. Still all good. Perfect. Alright. Now it's puzzle time. There you go. Let's do it to it. Next one. Alright. We're at a good pace. Let's see if we can keep this pace. Yep. Yeah, you're right. That's the other. That'd be the other move. Good job. Okay, still good. Good. That's good. That's good. Okay. All right. see. Right there, there. That's me. And Queen H is mate. Nice. Okay. We're trying to get our record pace here and see how fast we can improve in getting these puzzles going. We're at like record pace now. This is great. So are you excited about your tournament coming up pretty soon? On Friday? Chess 360? Because I always liked preparing for tournaments. They were fun. I enjoyed doing that. Okay, there, there. There was something about the intensity of the game. There was something. Hey, remember, anybody can be beat. Let's see here. Queen F. Good so far. We're good so far. Good, good, good. Actually, perfect. Okay. That's funny. I think that's the best we have. No more mates. Yeah. I had two. One time I did three rooks. So that is funny though. Three rooks changes the scene of the puzzle when there's a queen in the place of where the rook is though. Okay, let's see. What do we? What can we do here? Yeah, I think this is the only move here then to draw the bishop away, and then that's mate. Because if we tried, it's sad that bishop g7 doesn't work, but rook would take with check. This is the only way that after takes, and there we go. And then these are this stop there, so we're good. Oh, oh, you do? Okay. Let's see here. Oh, I got it. I got it. Oops, I think I put the king move wrong. It's not king f, sorry. It's not king f6. It's king c6. c6. Hold on, let me get that set up. Let me get black's pawn's ready. Okay. Oops, wrong spot. How many? So a rook and a knight. So where's the knight go? So king, queen, king, and knight and rook. Knight, rook. Where's the other queen? Let me make sure. Let's see. So that's good. So there. So that's good. Okay, that's good. Queen's good. Yep. Okay. So white to move. Okay, so white to move and win. This one should be a walk in the park here. Hey, how you doing? White to move. It's not rook. It's not black. I'm thinking it's king a5 here. Well, maybe not, because then queen check there. So that's not right. Let's see, knight checks here. Yeah. Knight checks, king there. Turn to a queen, rook takes. Knight check, rook takes. Huh, maybe we're missing something here. see here. Say queen takes. Let's see if we check. If we go there, and it comes up and checks. Okay. Kind of stumped here. Just need a hint. So rook. I think it has something to do with queen c3. There's no mate here, I don't think. There's no mate in this one. We'll have to go over this one a little later, because I don't. What's the whole idea about this though? Because I was looking at that. Let's see, rook e5. So rook e5, and then if queen checks there, huh? Okay. Okay, I got it. So then if queen takes check, then you can actually check there. And then okay. Okay. So it's here, there, queen up there. If queen takes rook, b5, forces, queen takes, and if knight check, king comes back, check, knight, king comes in, and then it's checkmate. Okay, got it. Okay, we got it. But that was a mate in 6. A mate 6 there. Oh, okay. Rook e1 is the correct move? Rook e1? Okay, then queen f4 check, king a, then if rook takes, knight check, king there. I don't know if it's rook, because that rook move doesn't actually, it allows for a potential, well, I guess queen checks on c5 potentially could amount. There we go. Well, I guess it could amount for an attack there. Then knight. So maybe rather than queening, knight comes in here. I think this is the idea. And then if takes there, here, you can check there. Oh, e8. Oh, okay. That makes sense now. Okay, so rook e1. Okay, then queen takes e1. Then it must be king b5 if the knight can't take then, so queen f1 would have to be played back. Boy, that's interesting. So knight d3, and then queen b4. Okay, and then if knight takes, then okay. Gotcha. Okay, well, that's perfect. We'll have to finish up our other side here really quick. Alright. That was, yeah, it's really interesting. We'll have to go over that. Keep that puzzle, and we'll go over it a little bit later. We have to get our end game in, though. So we have to get moving and a grooving on these puzzles. We might just do 6 today, and then get into the end game, because I wanna put some time in the end game, and if I don't think we'd have enough time if we got all 12 done, so we'll just do 6 today, and then we'll make up the rest tomorrow. I'll have to make up the rest, because it's really good. That was a really good puzzle. Let's see here. So 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3. Oops, I almost forgot the king. That would help. Oops, I forgot a queen. There we go. And then we'll call it here after this one. We'll pick up here to tomorrow, and we'll get into our end game. Because I want to try to, we're starting, I believe, another player. Nope, we're doing Capablanca. So we have to. I think we got one last Capablanca game. Or do we have two? We have one last Capablanca game. Yep. Then we go into Smith. Yep. Yep, exactly. White to mate 2. Then we go to Smyslov. We do Smyslov after that. I think we have one more after Smyslov. I think it's Bobby Fischer. Let me see. Just let me make sure. Let's see, Smyslov. Yep, then we got Robert Fischer after that. There we go. Okay, onward and upward. There we go. Let's get into Emanuel Lasker is playing as white, and Capablanca is playing as black. Oh yeah, end game it is. And we love it when a plan comes together in the end game. Alright. Black to move. Okay, be blessed. I'll see you tomorrow. Chess 360. Okay. Okay. White's inferior pawn structure dooms him to an eternal misery against a player of Capablanca's expertise, endgame talent. The game can already be considered lost. And I want to. This is black to move. Exclam. So find the exclam move. Black to move, exclam. I'll be right back. Black to move, exclam. G5? Are you sure it's G5 for the exclam? Are you going to side with play okay, or are you going to stick with G5? Well, G5 isn't the actual move. Rook to B6 is the correct move. This this move forever will force white into a cramped position. Rook D3, and if Rook B2, then Rook B4, and he's cramped forever. And if Knight C1, that loses a pawn to Rook B4, because now we can actually grab a pawn. A pawn's going to fall now. Okay, now, my friends, you get one more chance, another chance. Black to move. Exclam, and I'm just going to do that. Copy and paste. Oops. Copy and paste. You are the mighty Capablanca. What did Capablanca play here that shocked basically Emanuel Lasker? This was a shocking move. Emanuel Lasker didn't see this one. What do you think he played? You have to choose, my friends. You are black. Black to move. Exclam. What did Capablanca move? I'll give you 1 minute to choose, and then I will show you. So it's up to you right now. You get 1 minute to choose starting now. Actually, G5 is not the move. There's something better. There's something even better than G5. Because they're not to worry about. Don't worry about this here. Okay, it's actually Rook A6 exclam. Rook A6 exclam. and he says creating a whole new threat of the ability of coming rook to a1 check, which would shut out the white king forever. Because once the king comes to h2, it's all over. So g4 was played by white. Of course, white would like to try and hold this position intact without creating new weaknesses. However, this is simply asking too much from white's unhappy forces. So what he's saying is if white tried to play rook d1, rook a2, king f1, rook b2, knight c1, knight d6, and then rook to e1, rook e1. He's saying that there's rook d2, knight e2, and then knight b5, winning material. Another line that he said that could be playable on move 6, instead of e1, he's saying that king e1 could be played, which is worse because then knight e4, f3, knight c3, and rook d2, rook b1, rook c2, and then knight b5 is clearly no better for white. There's nothing that white could do. So he's saying that another line that could be played is knight, this is pointed out by Kasparov, knight to c3, rook a1 check, king h2, rook c1, b4, and then rook c2, king g1, rook b2, b5, and then rook b4 with a double attack. So he tries to hold things together with h takes g, f takes g. If he played knight takes g, his life wouldn't have been any easier after knight takes g, because then rook a1 check, king h2, knight d6, king g2, and then rook b1. Then white's pawn structure is even more fractured than it was in the game. And he's saying that worse is actually, rather than king here, but king g2 is actually worse because of knight h4, king h2, and then rook b1. And that's even worse, because now there's a humongous headache problem here. So he played there, and then rook a2 to attack the knight, knight c3, and then you get another chance, black to move, exclam. You get another chance to give it a shot. Black to move, exclaim. Okay, you can have a minute. That's more than a couple of seconds. Okay. That was supposed to be a good joke there. Okay. So give it your best here. You're black. Think. What does black want to do? Black to move and then exclaim. You want to squeeze the opponent. Squeeze. So remember Capablanca, if you want to think of him, he's a boa constrictor. He slowly will subtly set up a move, and Capablanca, once he gets you, he'll just tighten up. And he just keeps tightening and tightening and tightening, and until there's no counterplay left. Your counterplay is shut out, and you're so weak now that there's nothing that could even merit playing on anymore. It's just too painful to. Too painful to. Do you have an idea at all? Knight d6. That's an interesting idea. It has to do with the rook. Rook b2. That you're going down the right road. Think one more square over. You have it right. You have the right piece. Just one more square over. It's rook c2. Exclaim. Rook c2. Exclaim. Because the whole idea about this is he wants to make it so the knight really can't go anywhere. If the knight comes up here, that really doesn't help much, because now we're preparing to actually infiltrate even further up and in, and maybe cut around here. The threat is to play knight takes d here. Actually, sorry, knight takes d. Oops. And then after rook takes, then we take that. So he played knight d1. Yeah, that is nice. Now you get another chance to redeem you get another chance for to play as Capablanca. You're black again. Black to move. His rook is beautiful. His rook is beautiful. It's doing its job. There's one move. Yeah, there's one move that needs to be played here. There's one piece that isn't to its optimum placement. The rook on c2 is beautifully placed. It cuts the king out. It also threatens later on to, along the second rank, cause a lot of chaos. There's one piece that needs to be developed, and you have to develop it to the right square. The knight. Think, where would the knight be optimally placed? Think long distance. Think how the knight jumps around. The knight can get on any color of the board. Where would the knight want to be? Grandmaster Simon Williams always talked about, yes, that's right. Because the knight, you always think, where do we want the knight to be? We would love the knight to be here where it's potentially double attacking. This pawn, it's attacking here. And then potentially even better it might be there. Yeah. That's an exclam move. Good job. Heading for c6. It's then it eyes d4 and b4. So the knight went back to c3. But it's all, you know what? You had to find it though. b4 loses a pawn to rook to c1. Like what you were talking about. This loses a pawn. Because c1 and then rook to b1, and we got it. Rook c1 check. King f2. Knight c6. Rook d1. This sets a trap by preparing knight. He's trying to set up a trap. He's saying that better, even though this is this would have been a more interesting move that Alekhine could have kind of done a little better on. You get one. Oops. You get another opportunity playing as Capablanca. You get another opportunity here. Think about what we just talked about, what Kappa talked about. Why did he move his knight here and here? What was the idea of having a knight on c6? What was that idea? And then take scope on it with all your might. Because now your knight is optimally placed. Your knight is perfectly placed. There is one piece now that's not optimally placed anymore. So find the best square for that piece. Your knight is actually good now. Your knight's doing its job. Black needs to activate one more piece and threaten a weakness. Remember the theory of two weaknesses? We already have a weakness of the knight here. We need to provoke one with the rook. Where does this rook want to go? Yep, you got it. Congratulations on that. This is actually an exclam move because it holds two ideas. One idea is it's attacking it, keeping the pressure on the knight, and attacking b3. If the knight tries to come back, if the knight, oops, right here. If the knight tries to come back, black can grab this pawn, thereby pinning the knight to the rook. Pinning the knight to the rook. So King e2 was played by Alekhine. Manuel Lasker. It was a mistake. Excuse me. And they're saying that if Alekhine, if Capablanca had tried knight to b4, this would have actually been a mistake here. Knight b4 would have been a mistake, because then rook d2, rook b1, knight b2, rook takes b2, pawn takes, rook takes, knight d3, king e2, knight takes b, king d2, exclam. This is actually an exclam move. King f8, king c2. Surprisingly, the knight's trapped. Trapping the knight when a draw result would have occurred. So knight c4, pawn takes, d takes, king c3, knight e7, king takes c4, and this would have actually been a draw here. Yep, you got it. You got it. So they're saying that e1, king e1, although one would expect Kappa to eventually win after knight a5, king d2, rook takes b, knight takes b, and then basically like king c3 would somewhat try to hold. So Kappa played another outstanding move. This is a tactic galore. You should find this not a problem at all. This is a beautiful tactic. Black to move. Black to move, exclam. This is like a beautiful tactic. Just think tactics, and you should find this one for black. No sweat. No sweat at all. Yep, you got it. Kaboom. That's an exclam mark. This is a typical Kappa who often makes use of particular combinations, like this one. So king goes up to e. Emanuel Lasker is not going to do that because it would be totally losing at that point. King e4. You get to do it again. It's another exclam move. Let's see if you can find this exclam one. I know you can. I know you can find this one. Think a new target. What's the next target that's on black's radar? And think what to play. The knight is optimally placed, so we don't want to move our knight. Our knight's perfect. Almost. You have the right piece, wrong spot. Right piece, wrong spot. Just think, the knight can move away and then there wouldn't be any problems. But think, what can we do to cause a lot of problems for white here? White's hanging on by his toenails. So how do you take advantage of a weakness? Okay, I'll tell you. It's rook b4. Rook b4 exclam. Because what you're trying to do is, yep, That's fine. This move here, Kappa said the reason he did it, the reason he did rook b4 was to keep the rooks on the board and keep pressure on d4, and then this buys him time to get his king involved. So he keeps the rooks on the board. It buys him time to get his king involved in the fight. And then after he gets his king involved, then he'll trade and he'll hassle the king with his knight and king and pawns. But he needs that rook to keep Emanuel Lasker under wraps till he can get his king involved. That's what he was saying. It's called, he says it's an army of two. The army here, and then once he gets the king involved, he could trade this rook off for that rook, and then he'll have again army of two. Knight c3, knight e7, knight e2. Second. I gotta get my head position right. 92. Okay, knight f5, check. Putting pressure on the pawn and a check at the same time. King f2. g5, g4, and then knight d6, with the idea of implanting a knight. White's position has worsened. Now the h-pawn is fixed and will be a permanent target. King g, rook, knight g1, knight e4, and it comes. Come on. Why aren't you working with me? Oh no, it's doing it again. It's not responding. Oh no. Oh, come on. Work with me. But I think it's incredible though how Alekhine Emanuel Lasker can actually not Emanuel Lasker, sorry, Capablanca. I had to go through all the great endgame players. He could place his pieces just perfectly. It was just incredible how that could actually happen. Let me see how and see if this is actually doing okay. It looks like it's recording okay. Wow, everything's kind of not doing too well. c4, rook f1. Perfect, we're doing good now. So I don't know why it does that, but it gets hiccups every once in a while. White can hold things together for a while, but black gets his king, pawns. But once black gets his king and pawns into the action, white's resistance will crumble. However, note how black handles the position. He suddenly goes into a cat and mouse mode and taking control of his opponent before finally lowering the hammer, as we like to say. Okay. Alright, will do. And so that's what was played here. Rook b1, king g2, rook b2, king f1, rook f2, check, king e1, rook a2, king f1, king g7. If oops, come on. If instead of when the king, if he played f3, knight f3 here, f2 picks up the h3 pawn. King g7, rook e3, king g6, rook d3, f6. Finally getting on with it, black will bring his king to d6 and then create a pass pawn on the e file. Rook e3, king f7, rook d. So he's just going back and forth. King e7, rook e3, king d6. Now he's acquired his goal. Rook d3, rook f2, check. A bit more cat and mouse. Seems that Capablanca is having so much fun watching his opponent basically go back and forth that he doesn't want it to end. That's what he said. Yeah, he's having too much fun. But to remember, the game is about checkmate. King e1, rook g2, king f1, and then rook a2, rook e3, and then kaboom, there comes down the hammer. Thor's hammer is coming down. Rook there, he takes d, rook takes, and then finally king c5. Oh, not e5, c5. King c5, rook d1, d4, rook c1 check, king d5. Now the king can stand in front of the pawn and it can go all the way up the board. White resigned at this point, so we'll put a triangle at that point. And this is actually what could happen. Rook d1, g3 check, king e1, knight, no, king e1, rook g2, knight f3, and then rook e2 is checkmate. Would have been a picture perfect finish. This is and then we'll call it at this point because tomorrow we'll pick up Smyslov. But this is what he says. Comparing Capablanca to Emanuel Lasker as an obvious question arises. Who was the superior endgame player? Let's allow Capablanca to share his opinion. Given after a brilliant tournament victory in Sabanith in 1911. The endgames were up to the highest standard. This is what Capablanca said. Some players thinking that I played much better than Lasker himself. Until then, the reputation to have been of no equal. So basically, his reputation and Emanuel's reputation, Lasker, were about the same. So they were equals. I do not believe that I am a better player, but just he says I do not believe that let me make sure I read this right. I do not believe that I played them better. I didn't. So he's saying I didn't play the positions better, but just as well. So what Kappa is saying here is he's not saying, oh, I'm better than Emanuel Lasker, oh, I'm better than this player. No, he's saying all I did was play them well. He didn't say better, he didn't say good, he didn't say great. He said he played his end game well. And you know what? That takes out pride, because pride goeth before a fall. Yeah. Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, and see that's and so what we have to remember is that Capablanca realized that chess was part of him, and it wasn't something to brag about. It's kind of interesting. He didn't have to have permission for everybody to say how great he was. And you know what he realized was he had a natural talent. I think I think a little bit of it. I think he kind of took a little bit of it for granted, because you know what, such a great mind. He just he just could look at the board and know what the right move was. It was amazing. Okay, excuse me. Enough of me talking. Do you have anything you want to ask me a question about? 1 second. Excuse me, just a tickle there. Do you have any questions? Before I log off on this. Okay. But you know what? Like what we talked about, the beauty of chess is amazing. You know what? It's a gift. It's a game that the Lord Jesus gave us that's so beautiful that we get to actually play, and we get to enjoy, and then we get to teach and improve and get to play it some more. And you know what? To watch the great players of old, get to see them in action. The two great endgame players, Emanuel Lasker and Capablanca. And we got to see Emanuel Lasker in his prime when, man, nothing could stand against Emanuel Lasker. Not even a relative that was like really good, Edward Lasker. Even Edward Lasker couldn't even stand against Emanuel Lasker when he was in his prime. And you know what? We have to remember that what do we leave behind is important. And Alekhine, even though he's departed to be with the Lord Jesus, and I hope he was a believer, he left us behind many great end games. And you know what? I hope someday to also leave great games for the next generation, and these lessons as well that my Grandmaster teacher taught me, and that, you know what, I get to share and honor the Lord with the talent that He's given me in thinking of chess. And that's how it should be. We got to remember that a mindset is valuable too. That's what we're talking about with E. Nightingale. if whatever you think about, you will become. So if you go in there and you think, "Oh man, I can't, no, this player is better than me," what'll happen is that your play will not be up to where it should be because you believe that that opponent is a better player than you. And you both have the same brain. It's just who is more prepared and what is your mindset when you sit down at the board. And of course, like what we always talk about, we're going to bring our Grandmaster glasses with us so that when we sit down, we don't look at it through our eyes, we look at it through the Grandmaster game eyes. And that's what Bruce Lee was saying by taking what you know and applying it, and then be willing to do something with it. And also, that's I think what he meant too when he said about that our mind does have plateau moments, but we should strive to go beyond that plateau. Never be satisfied for second best, because there's a saying that goes, second place is first loser, and we're not first losers. We're first place, and that's what Chess Cruncher, Team Chess Cruncher always is striving for, first place. And you know what? Sometimes first place is just finishing, because that you know what? Then you finished. That enough is first place. That's Paul one time. Paul said that. He said he ran a good race. He fought a good fight. He finished the course. And you know what? What Paul went through is like whoa. Saying that because he actually got to go into Greece and see the Olympics, the Bema seat where the judges would actually sit up above and judge all the races. There would be a bunch of judges that would sit up and watch all the stuff that goes on, and then they would give awards out to players, and they can actually see if there was a tie or not a tie. And it's just a better vantage point that they had. And so when he said that, Paul wasn't the youngest of men, and he finished his fight for the Lord, and he ran his race for the Lord. And when it was done, he said that he finished, and he crossed that. Same thing with I always once in a while I'll watch the Cool Running, and how the Jamaican bobsled, even though their bobsled tipped over and they would have been number one if they had finished, they were the first of their country to actually participate in bobsledding. And so that's a great example of a Paul example, when they put that bobsled on their shoulders and they walk it across the finish line, they finished. That's what Paul was saying. I picked up the bobsled. I finished. And so what we have to remember is that's why we say when you fall down, don't stay down. Get right back up. They didn't, and Paul didn't. So we're not going to, because we're Team Chess Cruncher. And what we have to remember is to treasure your victories and learn from your losses. And remember that mistakes do not define you. It's how you handle the mistake that defines you. And we got to keep that in our forefront. And that the importance of the very first step, like what Yadisher want, every long journey begins with one small step. So the very first step is as important as the very last step that crosses that finish line. So never ever think that whatever happens in the tournament, that you finish and you play all your games means that you finished, and you could take that home and then improve on it. So you're always a winner when you can take your game home and improve. Win or loss or draw, you're always a winner. That's what my teacher told me, and I took that to heart during the hard times of trying to acquire all everything to get to where I am today. It's been not an easy task, but you know what? It's been so worth it. and I got to remember all the stuff that my Grandmaster teacher taught me. And during those hard times, the Lord Jesus is always there to fill in those times when the sandprint in the sands, when you look back and there's footprints there. There's only one set. There's usually two, the Lord Jesus and you. But during the hardest times of your life, and you see one set of footprints, no, that and when he asked the Lord that, he says, "Why was there one set? You were supposed to be there for me." And he said, "No, well, you know what? That was the time when I carried you. When you couldn't handle the situation at hand, I was there for you." And I always like that poem, the Footprints in the Sand, that really hits home during the hard times, that he's always there for you. Okay, I'll leave you with that, because you know what? We have to remember that chest crunchers hang up their coat, they hang up their hat, they sit down and study when most won't. Chest crunchers do, and that makes all the difference. And I'll leave you with that. As Wesley So says, for the Lord Jesus, and as I say, God bless. And I'll see you next time on Chest Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, and evening. And Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow. And we'll keep pushing forward. We'll dive now into Smyslov's games, and we'll get to see the great Smyslov play. And you know what? Remember what Hannibal Smith said. He loves it when a plan comes together, but he always knew what his opponent was going to do. And he predicted what his opponent was going to do, and he based a plan around that. But he never forgot his plan. He always kept it in his back pocket and ready to be implemented when it was his turn. Great job. Go Team Chest Cruncher. Hoorah. Be blessed. And I'll see you tomorrow doing Smyslov, doing some more opening, doing some more games from Morphe, and some puzzles. 2 thumbs up. Great job at finding all those moves. Keep studying chess and having fun and using the talent to honor the Lord always. Bye-bye.